Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Entrepreneurial Truth Podcast. My guest today is Jenny, a.k.a. the Beer Lady. That's what I call her. So I saw her on a video interview with Liberty on her YouTube channel, and I thought it was amazing. She has a heart of gold. She wears a heart on her sleeve, and it was just such a cool interview. It was such a cool interview to see her and Liberty. Liberty was a homeless man, and she just went back to him and started talking to him, and they had an amazing time and an amazing interview. You need to check that out. And here she is, the Beer Lady. It's your turn.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate you having me on the show, Jim. I appreciate all the listens for my podcast that I could get. I'm flattered to be on your podcast now, so I'm glad you reached out, and I'm glad this is working. To Jim, I am the Beer Lady, but to the rest of my kingdom, I am actually the Beer Queen.
Yes.
I host a podcast called Beer Talk Radio. It is the only craft beer podcast in the business section. So I like to cover not just craft beer lifestyle subjects. I try to encourage the consumption of craft beer on the consumer side, but then I also try to encourage leadership, team building, customer service, all of the elements that go into hospitality and giving great service, providing ideas on marketing, ideas on branding, how to be consistent, how to be strong, how to stand out, how to set yourself apart in a very, very saturated, competitive craft beer industry. So we talk about all those subjects on Beer Talk Radio, but I also have a lot of fun on it too. So sometimes I have silly bonus episodes. Sometimes I have episodes where I'm just talking shit. Sometimes I have episodes where where I'm hanging out with homeless veterans and buying them beer and getting them high and like just parking the car by the water and making a person with PTSD forget about his PTSD for just a little bit. I have sports episodes. I'm an avid Game of Thrones fan, so I have a couple of Game of Thrones and beer episodes. I have cooking episodes. I can teach you how to make a beer can chicken. I can teach you how to pair chocolate with beer. I have several episodes about that. I can teach you how to shuck an oyster and make a beer mignonette sauce. So I cover all those grounds. My professional background is I am actually a full-time chef, as you can see from the tattoos. Need to get those knuckles redone, but that is what I do full-time professionally. I've been in the restaurant and catering business for off and on for almost 2 decades now. I am a really tough bitch. I've learned a lot. I've had to learn a lot of lessons the hard way. I've had to experience being humiliated. I've had to experience having someone yell at me and like almost spit in my face. I've gotten thrown out of kitchens. I've gotten escorted out of kitchens by security for like no reason. You know, I work in a very, very passive aggressive. I'm in San Francisco, okay? I work in a very passive-aggressive town, and I've had to learn a lot of lessons. It's the hard way, but I will say this has been a wonderful training ground for me to develop my palate, which is why one of the reasons I started the podcast is because I do think that I can give great beer reviews and great advice on how to be profitable with craft beer.
I think that's awesome. I think you're awesome, really. It's tough because when you're in that type of an industry and it is high stress, especially if you're a cook, a very high stress situation. And a lot of people have tempers, stuff like that go on. You know what I'm saying? So it's tough to deal with that. How do you deal with that? Are you, I don't think you're passive aggressive. Let me tell you. Do you deal with that?
I'm aggressive.
So do you deal with that kind of head on, or, you know, cause it is kind of a professional setting?
Yes and no. I think that one of my greatest strengths just as a human being is that I have an amazing ability to read people, and I can smell somebody's shit a mile away.
Awesome.
Which oftentimes sucks because sometimes I'm the only one who sees these personality disorders in others, and I tend to kind of butt heads with that person, and then other people can't understand why I'm butting heads with that person until that person fucks everybody over, you know, and it's too late then. But I don't say I told you so. I think temperance and empathy and emotional intelligence is really the most important thing that you can do. But then also self-awareness. So I need to know, am I reacting to someone making a mistake in a negative way because I've told them 5 times? Or is it because I broke up with my boyfriend last week and I want to kill myself? You know what I mean?
Yeah,
you know, it's like, you have to, before you can judge anyone else, you have to judge yourself. And I think that it's important to take responsibility. I am a very, very happy person, but misery loves company. And when you work in a business, a blue collar business where there's already a lot of competitiveness, people are petty, people have attitudes, people have drug addictions, alcoholism, you know, people are moody. Sometimes if you come in being the happiest person in the room, they want to fuck with you. And I'm not over the top bubbly, but I do think that my joy, my strength, and my confidence is intimidating to others. So I don't back down from a fight, which is a big problem because it will get me fired and escorted out by security. But for the most part, I try to check myself first. So if I can keep myself at a homeostasis where I'm unaffected by the attitude and the mood swings by other people around me, then I can get through the day just fine. So self-awareness, number 1. And then number 2, I think learning how to not take it personally. I think that's really important. And that's just something I've been practicing in the last few years. And let's just say I've gotten fired a lot less in the last few years, you know, as opposed to, you know, previous years. It's one thing for me to be a hothead. It's another thing for someone else to be a hothead and me being the recipient of it. And I have to kind of like separate myself and know that it's not personal. This person is the opposite of us. They're not self-aware. They don't listen to podcasts. They probably don't listen to any life coaches. They probably don't read any books. You know, they probably had parents that were enablers. So when you look at that person and can disassociate yourself from the pain that they're trying to spill onto you versus your own pain, and you can, you know, separate the two, I think it makes getting through the work week a little easier. And if you get good enough at it, you learn to actually be able to laugh at these assholes, because you do see, once you realize it's not you, you do see, like, you feel sorry for them. Like, I'm sorry they didn't have good parents. I'm sorry they don't have a good support system. They don't have good friends. So they bring all of their stress, all of their ego, and all of their anger to work with them. And that's a sad place to be. So you just learn to laugh at them. You know?
It's all you can do sometimes, you know? I mean, it's so hard to live in a society that's mainly negative. You know what I mean? When you're trying to be, when you just, it's not you. And so you just don't, it's almost like you don't want that on you, you know? You just want to take it and brush it right off. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So on your journey, you mentioned some things already, but what are some of the things that had held you back, or some obstacles that came in your path, either internal or external, that's kind of held you back on your journey so far?
Well, as a proud conservative, I will say that I am what has held me back on my journey. I do think that physically, I hate to say this, but like being beautiful, like, is a problem, because other women hate you for it. And men, it can go one of two ways. Either they get to know you and become very protective of you, and you become like a sister to them, or they see you as an object and they want to sexually harass you. But other than that, other than just like kind of some surface kind of like microaggression type of stuff and maybe some rude comments and some attitude. I would say that for me, I've held myself back. For many years, I undervalued myself. I didn't know how to price myself. I didn't apply for jobs that I was way qualified for. I was always underestimating myself. I was always under delivering to myself. I wasn't self-committal. I would keep my promises to other people, but not to myself. I would, just numb out the pain and just, come up with these vision boards, but never do any work for it. And then be in so much pain because I wasn't realizing my life potential. And then I would just numb the pain out, by drinking a lot or smoking, a lot of weed, which I still do. But, but now I just do, now I just drink for the show, and I don't need to get drunk to have a good time. I can take myself to a place of comfort and be completely still, knowing that I am just enough the way I am. I'm not for everyone. I'm not going to be able to get along in every work environment, but some work environments appreciate my strength. They appreciate my honesty. They appreciate my helpfulness. They like that I'm happy. It doesn't make them jealous. It makes them, it's infectious to them, and it makes them happy. I can't tell you how many times, like if I'm sick or I go out of town and I come back to the kitchen and everyone's like almost having a panic attack when I'm not there, because the energy in the place is not the same without me. As happy as I am, I can get angry too, and not being able to control my temper, not having a filter has definitely hindered my career. But I will say this, in the long term, everything happens for a reason. So for every job that I ever got fired for basically speaking the truth, except in a tone that people don't like, except for that, year after year, time after time, every time I get fired, I get a better job immediately afterward. So in the grand scheme of life, I try not to beat myself up too much if I occasionally lose my temper or I occasionally have had it with, having to put up with too much bullshit at once with too many people. Even then, when the levee breaks, it's for a reason. And that's not to say I shouldn't continue to improve myself and learn how to negotiate rather than to argue. I think that's really important. That's a skill I would like to have. I'm just going to fucking tell you how it is and you can hit the road if you don't like it. Like, that's just, I'm a military kid, so that's just how I am. But yeah, I already forgot my point, but yeah, I am the problem.
That's okay.
I'm the biggest problem, and I'm also the biggest problem solver, and that's a mic drop.
Like that. I like that a lot. You know what though? I think every point that we go to is kind of like a rest stop point in time where we have a thing for a season, and then it's just time for us to move on because we don't belong there. It's not us. It's not us. It's them. And then sometimes it is us, but we have to learn from those different points in our journey, because life and the entrepreneur thing is a journey. It's not like a sprint. You're like not an overnight success. I've done 91, 92 shows. I've not met anyone that's an overnight success yet. Not yet. So I think you're right on. I think you're absolutely right on about that. So what did you have to do to overcome all that stuff, especially the stuff where you were like, I'm undervaluing myself. I don't think I'm worth that. I don't think I'm good enough. How did you overcome those things?
I became a Republican.
That's it.
Basically, I learned that I am not a victim of my circumstances. I am not a victim of the color of my skin or my gender. I have equal rights and equal access and equal opportunity, and no one is holding me back from applying for jobs. No one's holding me back from asking for more money. No one's holding me back from trying seeking higher salary jobs and positions with more responsibility because just so your listeners know, I'm a sous chef. And I love being a junior manager. You talk about being in the right environment in the right season. My season, my purpose, my right environments for me are to be a junior manager. That's not to say I don't ever want to be an executive chef, but there's something about me that makes me a really good lieutenant. There's something about me that makes me a really good number two. I like to work with the people, but I also like to have my boss's back and uphold his or her standards and enforce his or her rules. And I like to be that like middle upper management type person. So that's just a little background about me. But yeah, in terms of just learning how to not be a victim, like that's what changed everything for me. That's when I started making more money. That's when I started asking for more money. That's when I started hustling on the side. I mean, I've always been a hustler. I've always had like different little hustles and things that I would sell. There was a time in my life I was selling coconuts in the park. There was a time in my life I used to buy vintage clothing and vintage jewelry and sell it at the art crawl every month. I mean, I've had all kinds of little crazy hustles. I've baked cookies out of my house, you know. I've done all kinds of things, you know. Orange juice stands. I mean, I've done little hustles here and there. But anyhow, I launched my podcast, you know, after I realized I was always conservative and just had this cloud, this layer of you can't do it because you're a woman and this is a male dominated industry. Like this imaginary glass ceiling that doesn't actually exist. And just to give you proof of this, I've worked at a lot of places in San Francisco, Oakland. I've worked in Vegas, LA, everywhere on the West Coast. All the major cities on the West Coast I've worked or lived or visited or whatever. Like I have a relationship with. I know what sous chefs in San Francisco are being paid, and I guarantee you I'm making $5,000 to $10,000 more annually than they are. Wow. And you know what? I don't have to play the race card. I don't have to play the gender card. All I have to do is show up, listen, give a damn, and then try to bring all of my skills and my talent to the table when appropriate. Be a problem solver, not a problem creator. And that's when the universe will change everything for you, and everything you ever want will come to you just by being yourself.
Absolutely. Do you know what? I understand completely what you mean. When you take ownership of your own life, rather than letting circumstances and everything else influence you, you now have control. You give up that control when you start to say, well, it's this and it's that's holding me back. I had a kidney failure. So, you know, had surgery, had a new kidney put in. I went through a whole big ordeal. Oh, that's why I'm not succeeding, because I got taken out right at this certain point that I was doing good. No, it's not like that at all. It's not like that at all. When we take ownership and say, if it's going to be, it's up to me, instead of relying on everyone else and letting all the circumstances beat us down, then you're truly starting to live. And I think that you nailed it 100%. You nailed it. So that's amazing.
Thank you.
I was going to ask you though, from being a chef to culinary beer, I can see the connection, but why did you choose that for your podcast?
What I really wanted to talk about in my podcast was business. Oh. And craft beer is just a vehicle for the business discussion. So Getting back to what I said, sales, customer service, branding, neuro-linguistic programming, pairing an alcoholic beverage with a food, being creative, creating a warm, inviting, memorable guest experience. All of these things that I just said are part of my career. But I didn't want to talk about them through that vehicle of food, because I felt like there were enough food podcasts out there. There's enough celebrity chefs out there that people would probably rather listen to than me. And I don't want to be confined by just food, because I also have a passion for beer. So just so you know, I'm actually not a wine drinker. I don't drink wine at all. I'm not one of those girls who goes out and does like 25 shots. I can do 25 shots. I can actually hold my liquor quite well, but I don't like to get drunk like that. And my tolerance is so high at this point in my life to where 10 shots over 4 or 5 hours, like I'm not even going to feel it, honestly. And I drink so much water. It's just a waste of calories and a waste of money, you know? So I'm not a heavy drinker, but I do appreciate from a taste standpoint, what craft beer has become in the last 20 years. I mean, anything you could ever want to drink, there is a craft beer version of it. Any fruit, any pastry, there's a fruit beer for it or a hazy IPA for it. Blood oranges, watermelon, strawberries, cherries, kumquats, guava. There's a beer out there with that flavor. Any dessert that you want to eat, freaking bananas Foster, tiramisu, coffee cake, cheesecake, chocolate cake. There's a chocolate cake beer out there for you. If you're gluten-free, there's quinoa beers, there's rice beers, there's beers that are made from sake, there's every kind of, it's like when you walk into Home Depot and you're looking at colors for your house and you just can't stop looking at all the rows of colors that there are. And you're like, how are there this many colors in the world? And you just keep looking at the colors, and that's what craft beer is to me. It's like every time I think I've learned everything I can learn about craft beer, I find, I don't know, there's a kombucha triple hazy IPA or something like that. There's a pomegranate. There's so much. I can't even list all of the beer styles. I mean, if you just saw what was in my fridge or what was, in my recycling bin, you would be amazed, So that's why beer, because it's also something I think is awesome.
That's so cool. I can tell it's a passion of yours, like cooking's a passion of yours, and they do mix together. They do. And so that's really cool as well. I want to know, where do you see this leading? I mean, you said you really want to be the sous chef right now, and that's your position. And I think we all have that point, that position in life where, not everybody is, the out front person and the leader and all that stuff. And I've been in situations where I've been the backup person. I've had no problem with that. I absolutely, I kind of like it better, to be honest.
I'm the same way. I like to do what's called lead from the rear. I like to just give you your shit, give you your tools, give you what you want, and then I want to respectfully treat you like a man or respectfully treat you like a woman and let you do your thing. And until you fuck up, I'll leave you alone. Just come to me when you have a mistake. Come to me when you have a problem. I'll have your back. I'm not going to scream at you. I'm just going to fix the problem. We'll do it together and we'll both learn from it. And that's enough. I don't need to jump down your throat and be an asshole unless, that's what you
necessary. I was going to ask that question though. Where do you see this culminating, or where do you see yourself maybe 5 years from now? It's always kind of a typical question, but where do you see this podcast, the chef, everything coming together as what?
That is a great question. And basically, I'm going to give you the answer that I told my boss. I said, I love what I'm doing. I love being a chef. I hope I can do it for the rest of my life. But if Oprah calls me, I'm out. So I need a 6-figure income to leave what I'm doing now, because I'm making good money and my boss is very kind to me and generous. So it's funny you should ask that, because people ask me, what is Beer Talk Radio? Like, well, it started out as a podcast because I just wanted to talk about business concepts through beer. Okay. Hospitality, industry type things through beer. But what it has evolved in now is I really think there is a brand to this. And over the last 2 years, so much has happened. I was in Vegas when I started the podcast, and now I'm back in Oakland, but I still have a studio in Vegas that is being, that I'm going to be building out. Still need to make some more money because soundproofing is very expensive. Recarpeting is very expensive. Contractors are expensive. Chairs are expensive. Good sturdy ones. Commercial grade chairs are expensive. Not folding chairs. But anyhow, so I have a Beer Talk radio studio. So now if anyone wants to come to Vegas, or if anyone is in Vegas, they can come record any kind of content creation they want. I'm going to have a podcast room that's going to be totally soundproofed. I've got a green screen already. You can double it as a meeting room or a workshop room. We've got a couple of comedians that want to come teach some improv classes in the space. We've got a couple of podcasters that want to come in there and start recording YouTube videos because they want to move from the audio realm into the video realm, just as I have done. So there's a lot going on with that. I want to write a cookbook about beer, using beer. You know, I mean, I think that logically that's the next thing for me. And that's something that it's already in my head. I just need to write it down and take pictures. That's something I want to accomplish by the end of the year. I am hoping to get some sponsors. So I have a couple of breweries that have found me through LinkedIn or through some other platform. They really like my personality. They're not intimidated by the fact that I'm a little vulgar. They don't see me as someone who is what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I don't have to be the girl next door. And I think when you're talking about beer, you don't typically, you might buy wine from the girl next door, but you don't want to drink beer with the girl next door. You want to drink beer with the bad girl. You want to drink beer with the crazy girl, the fun girl, the party girl. And I think that's part of my brand that I have to offer on top of my amazing mastery of the English language and my just ability to talk about business concepts in a way that is relatable to almost everyone who works in almost any industry. I think when I'm talking about, you know, how to be self-aware and neurolinguistic programming and mindset stuff, I think that's applicable to everyone. So I definitely see myself getting more involved in the leadership community, the coaching community. Not saying I want to be a life coach, but I definitely think I can bring something to the table if someone needs an MC or a hostess or someone to keep the party going in between lectures.
I can see a lot of that.
I've got a lot going on. I don't know where it's going to go. I just know when Bravo or the Food Channel calls me, that's when I'll call you and let you know.
You got
like, hey,
so much.
Jim.
Yeah, man, that'd be great.
On your podcast.
Because I think you have so much potential. I really do. I think your brain is thinking long term. I don't even know. I think you're aware of it though, because you're building out something that people can rent or a space they can be in. You can almost have a brand with different podcasts and stuff. You can host your own stuff there. I mean, I think you have potential to be an onstage speaker. I think that is something that you are going to be very, very good at. The cookbook sounds excellent. And of course, after you've done all this stuff, write it down, man. You're going to have all kinds of people wanting that course. I'm going to let you know. Yeah,
absolutely. I think I have a couple of books in me. Not just a cookbook either.
Definitely. Definitely. I see you as a multipreneur, which means there's going to be several different businesses off the one business that you're doing. I see all kinds of different avenues that you're going to be able to succeed in. You have the personality, you have all of it. You do the intelligence and all of it. And, you know, I don't say that on everybody, but you know what I mean? But you have a way about you. You really do. You really, really do. So I would encourage everybody to check you out on your podcast too. Tell us where you can find that too.
Well, just so all of your listeners know, I don't have a strong social media presence. I kind of have everything shut down right now just because I needed to regroup. It was like kind of traumatizing for me. And that's a whole nother conversation about what is real and authentic in the world and versus what online, versus what all the online dramas and stuff, whatever. But
right.
I am hiring a publicist next week. So hopefully within the next couple of months, I will be back on social media, whether I had an Instagram that I deactivated, but when I come back, I'm coming back in full force, and I'm going to have someone to help me navigate that space because I don't really understand it. And social media, I can't get my head around it. Obviously, we met on Facebook, so there is a Facebook page for me. Beer space talk radio. Talk radio is put together in one word. However, if you'd like to Google search me, just Google search me at beer space talk space radio. You can find me on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Spotify, Anchor FM. That is my hosting platform. You can also find my YouTube channel, which is Beer Talk Radio. 3 words. And I always just like to direct everyone to subscribe on the YouTube channel. That way you're never going to miss anything. It doesn't matter what time of day I post anything, what time of day you look at a feed. If you subscribe to my YouTube channel, you'll get all the notifications and you can go back and watch or listen whenever you want to.
That's awesome. And it's not just a normal podcast. It's fun. I mean, there's a lot of different stuff you do. It's not just one thing where you just go and kind of talk and, and that's it. It's not like that at all. It's a fun time. So I just wanted to tell everybody that too. Is there anything that you would, if you were just starting out or someone out there is just starting out in all of this, what is one of the things that you would tell them? What's the advice that you would give them?
Starting out with cooking or podcasting or
being an entrepreneur. I'm going to put it that way because you do so many things. You know what I mean?
I actually
it's okay.
I actually have a 20-minute stand-up set that is written for entrepreneurs, especially in the culinary business. And I called them the culinary Death Stars of the restaurant galaxy. And you know what I'm actually going to do for you, Jim? I'm going to be the anti-entrepreneur. I'm going to tell you why you shouldn't be an entrepreneur. And if you can get through this list, then maybe you're built for it. How about that?
Sounds great.
Okay. If you like sleeping a consistent schedule, don't be an entrepreneur.
No. Don't.
If you like having anxiety about how you're going to pay your bills, don't be an entrepreneur. If you like having to start from scratch, having to learn the hard way, and no matter how many YouTube videos or books you read, you still fuck up, don't be an entrepreneur. If you have a wife or husband to whom you need to explain yourself constantly, do not be an entrepreneur. If you don't believe in yourself truly, don't be an entrepreneur. If you have insecurity issues, don't be an entrepreneur. If you're a narcissist or you have borderline personality disorder, don't be an entrepreneur because you're just going to make life hell for everyone around you. Okay? If you have fear issues from your childhood, especially fear issues that surround finances, or maybe like a generational curse, like of poverty, then maybe you should be an entrepreneur. You're probably going to fail because your fear mindset is going to just take over and ruin everything for you. So if you can get through all of that, if you're an open person and you're willing to learn about others, willing to learn about this industry that you're trying to take on by yourself, willing to learn more about yourself and to dig deep into your childhood and your mindset and really figure out where are your blocks. That way you can find people in your life to support you where you're weak. It's very important. Then you can be an entrepreneur. When you have people, when you know yourself so well that you can be honest when you look in the mirror and then find the right people to delegate those voids, delegate those character flaws, delegate those weaknesses to other people who will hold you up and hold your business together, then you can be an entrepreneur.
That was amazing.
Okay.
You have such a brilliant mind. To tell you the truth. Very, very insightful stuff, because I love the fact that you want to be the anti-entrepreneur, because this is not easy. I totally agree with you. And one thing also that I would add to that is, if you have a dream and not a goal, it's just a dream.
Good one. Yes, Jim. Now you're now you're hitting on all cylinders.
Oh, wow. Wow. This has been an amazing show. It really has.
Thank you.
Not the normal shows that I have either. It's not. It's
everyone tells me that. They're like, you're not like our other guests. I was like, I know.
It's a different level. It really is. It's a different level. I love it. I really do. And I think you have a ton of potential and already realizing some of it. And I think that don't ever sell yourself short. Please don't.
And that goes to all the listeners too. If there's one thing I can say, do not sell yourself short. If you have 20 years of experience and you know what your education and your blood, sweat, and tears has instilled in you to be the best at what it is you do, whatever industry, don't ever cheapen yourself. Don't ever discredit yourself, and don't take less than your worth. Don't reach for the low-hanging fruit, because I'm telling you, I ran in circles for years until I realized I was truly a conservative and not a progressive California liberal who was just masked in fear and masked in insecurity. No, once I realized that all these burns on my body, all these cuts on my fingers, all the times I got yelled at and screamed at and humiliated, but learned something important, that's what you have to pay me for. You're not paying me to scoop and serve. You're paying me for every job, every week, every shift that I put into to come to this day and be who I am now. And that goes the same for you guys, the listeners. Please know your worth. Otherwise, you're going to be spinning your tires in the mud for years, and you don't want to be like that. I'm just now getting out of poverty. I'm just now raising my credit score. I'm just now getting my tax stuff together. Just now at 38 years old. Because I spent 15 years being scared.
Wow. See, that's the thing. Fear, what fear does to us, it's so funny, because the only person we really need to defeat is ourselves. It's the only person that's holding us back. It's not anybody else. It's ourselves. And it's the crap that we got brought up with. It's the neighborhood we grew up in. I'm sorry, it is.
Oh, yeah. Environment. Oh, God. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah. We got to stop believing that there's no money out there and all this other crap that I was told when I was a kid.
All rich people are devils, or,
I had that too.
Some of the kindest people I've ever met were millionaires. They didn't have no chip on their shoulder. They had more, their money isn't what gave them class. They had class because they weren't scared of the world. And that's why they were wealthy, because they weren't scared to take risks. They're not scared to meet people. They're not scared to go look for that client. They're not scared to go apply for that job. That's the only difference between rich people and poor people, is the fear.
Yes, absolutely. My person in my family said this about a month ago. She said, well, there is no money because the rich people have it all. I'm like, what? What does that mean?
That's
They
a lie.
don't. It's such a lie. That's like, it's a scarcity mindset at its best. Right there. And if you don't overcome those things that were told to you over and over and over again when you were a kid, you're not going to make it. You're not going anywhere. And what you were talking about, neuro-linguistic programming, that, I think that's key to changing your mindset.
Absolutely. And it did. And it's getting better and better and better and better, little bit by little bit by little bit, every day.
And you don't have dreams, you have goals. And that's just such a different thing, because people can be dreamers, and that's a great thing and whatever. And love to have, vision boards and all that stuff, but you don't do anything about it. You just stare at it. You're not going to do anything. It's fun to go through those exercises, and it's fun to put things up that you want. And it's fun to focus on the things that you want and not on the things that you don't want. But there's a time that you got to get your rear end in gear and do something about it. And be about
Absolutely.
it.
And I say focus less on building a vision board and focus more on building your character. Know what you stand for. I'm an Air Force brat, so this is what we stand for. It's integrity first, service before self, and excellence in everything. I was brought up that way. Did I always do that? No, but it was in my heart. And you got to get who you want to be and what you want to do into your heart. Once it gets there, then it'll go to your brain. And once it goes to your brain, it goes into the universe. And that's when you can sit back and let it come to you, because it will. You don't have to be fake. You don't have to cheat. You don't have to lie. You don't have to scam people into believing that you're worth something if you already know who you are and you already know what your worth is.
Knowing your worth is the difference between living in poverty and living a lifestyle that you actually deserve. Because poverty, no one deserves. I truly believe no one deserves that.
Sometimes they choose it. Sometimes you're born into it, and sometimes you choose it.
That's true. That's true. That's true. And the thing is like, I'm not angry at any of them. They gotta choose their own path. And unfortunately, some people can't get over that programming, or some people just, well, I'm going to say it flat out, they're too lazy. Right?
It's easier. Ignorance is bliss, man. Because once
it really is.
It really is. Because once you realize once that veil comes off of your eyes and you see the world clear, and you look in the mirror and you see yourself clear, oh, there's no excuses anymore.
No.
I can never play the race card ever again, Jim.
Wow.
Never. For the rest of my life, I will never say that anything bad, unless it's really like a hate crime. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
If it really is, then yeah, we'll call it what it is. But as far as this imaginary clouds of ghosts and ghouls that are coming to like ruin your life, they're not out there, and we all have it's just easier to be a victim, and that's unfortunately what's going on in our society with like coddling children. And I almost think that the anti-bullying thing has swung the other way, where it's like now anybody can be a bully. Like when I was a kid, there were bullies and they had defined personalities and they did defined stuff. But now truth is the new hate speech. And anytime someone says something they don't like, that somebody else doesn't like, oh, you're a bully now because it's like, no, I just discredited your theory.
Mm-hmm.
I just gave you some facts.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't make me a bully.
Education doesn't make you a bully. It really doesn't. Here's another thing I noticed when you were saying that, is that we do live in a society that enables us to be angry at everyone else but the person
all the time.
Yeah. And we're responsible, and we want to blame everybody else because we don't want to look at ourselves in the mirror and say, you know what? Maybe it's me. And then when you tell somebody else it's them, That's not acceptable. That's not
Well,
acceptable.
I don't know. We just got to push through, Jim. We just got to
Yeah.
keep being happy. And while everyone else is being mad and fighting, we're going to be making some money.
Now that sounds like a good plan.
That's the plan. That's the plan in 2020, not just for me and you, but for everyone listening.
2020 vision. There you go.
2020 vision.
There you go.
Mic drop. Boom.
Yep. Boom. I love this conversation and I appreciate you being on. Do you want to tell anybody anything else before we go?
No, not so much. Just make sure that you guys all subscribe on the YouTube channel. Like I said, that is going to be the central hub. Otherwise, you can find me at www.beertalkradio.net. If you go straight to the website, you can see my dad has a blog on my website, and he talks about craft beer in Los Angeles.
Cool.
We've got all the videos, all the podcast episodes, and then you can learn some other fun facts about me on the website too.
That sounds amazing. Click the subscribe button and the like button and ring the bell and do all that stuff, and then have a craft beer and sit down because that was exhausting. Anyway. All right, everybody. You have a wonderful day. Remember to subscribe to the Beer Queens channel. Please do that for me. Thank you. Have a great day.
Thank you.